Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pit Talk, pulling pits and opinions with your host, Gunny G, where service members help service member, period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast and on most social media platforms. Although I am cutting back a little bit because I can't take it all the social media stuff. But yeah, let me know how we're doing. Any criticism is good criticism. I do appreciate the ones that support the cause. That rare, I'll send you one, give you one. Keep that love coming. We got a special guest, a return offender, repeat offender by the name of retired Sergeant Major Abel Leal, hailing in from California. What is it you're at again? Temecula, California. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Abe, if you want to do me a favor, introduce yourself, give a little bit that you didn't give last time. A little bit of background, where you're at right now, what's your primary duty, basically.
So Sergeant Major Leal just retired, actually January of this year officially. It's been a year now, January last year. So, but over a year now, and I'm the Marine instructor at Fontana High School, teaching JROTC.
Hell yeah! So you kind of transitioned, but you didn't transition because you're thoroughly indoctrinated.
Thoroughly indoctrinated. Like I said, I still get weighed in once a year, so gotta make weight. Still got a PT.
No wait, for real? That's a requirement?
Yeah.
You're such a motivator. I feel like I need to re-enlist for the next 30 years because of you.
Yeah, it's moto, getting on the scale.
How many years did you retire? How many years of active duty did you do?
30 years.
30 years. You retired as the Depot Sergeant Major for Marine Corps. Well, Sergeant Major for Marine Corps recruiting. What is it? Region West or something like that?
Retired as the MCRD San Diego Depot Sergeant Major and the Western Recruiting Region Sergeant Major. So it's two hats that you wear: MCRD San Diego, Western Recruiting Region. So you have the base, and you have the base. So you actually have three hats. You have the base, you have the recruit training regiment, and then you have a recruiter as well. So
you only get, it's from what I'm told from my, the old heads that I talked to, your evaluations goes from like progress, like higher billets and higher capabilities, correct? Is that how it goes? Checking the box when it comes to fitness?
So, you start off at the 04 or 05 level when you pick up Sergeant Majors. So the 04 level obviously is recruiters at the RSs. And then if you're lucky enough, you get a lieutenant colonel at a battalion somewhere, the various battalions, wherever you end up. And then from there, you'll go to a colonel billet, 06 level commander. You have to do, I think, roughly about 36 months there before you're eligible. And then they may have changed the dates. I haven't, it's been almost a year now since I've been out. So, but they'll, so you're eligible to be looked at. And then usually the monitor will call you and let you know if you're in the eligibility zone for a general officer billet. And you just put in a package like for a slate. You do a package, get all the paperwork, turn it in, and then the Sergeant Major Marine Corps, I think, holds that board along with the 9 force level sergeant majors. And then you go up. It's just it's in the boardroom and everything. And then you get chosen or not chosen. So even if you're not selected, it's not a bad. It's hard to get to the general officer billet, even for those that are not selected, just to be eligible, be able to put your name in the hat. I think. Yeah, it's good.
That's wild, Abe. I didn't even know that was a. If you wouldn't have told me that, I didn't even think that would happen. I think it's just normal, PCS. Your evaluation reflect. It just kind of keep going, progressing. But no, you got to get slated for that.
Over the years, so they used to have HVB billets, and so like the general officer billets, 1 and 2 stars would hold those with the Sergeant Major Marine Corps. So I sat on those for HVB billets. But I've heard that I'm talking to Sergeant Major. Actually, I was just on the depot not the last couple weeks ago. Had a graduation, and Sergeant Major Levy was telling me that they kind of changed it now. There's only so many HVB billets now. I don't know if the 1 and 2 star Sergeant Major still board them or not. But I was actually able to do that, so it was a good knowledge to see it. See what what gets looked at, what doesn't get looked at. That was the board I sat on was with Sergeant Major Black as the Sergeant Major Marine Corps. So I'm sure Sergeant Major.
Wow, Marine, that's wild, eh? But look, let me ask you something. Since you're on that point, how long before you picked up Sergeant Major in your active duty career?
I want to say it was. I picked it up in 2013. So I came in in 1993. So 93.
Oh. You're not aging yourself or anything. Don't worry about it.
So I was selected at probably 18 and a half, 19 years or so, but then actually pinned on was 2013, September. So right around 20 years. So November would have been 20 years for me. So just under before I finally actually pinned on.
That's so. I don't know if that's average or not. You could tell me that here in a second. But going all the way to a general billet in less than 10 years, is that pretty good?
Yeah, I think it just depends on how fast you move up. Some people move quicker than others, just depending on where you go. I went to 2 lieutenant colonel billets. Some people may just be 1 lieutenant colonel billet and then eligible for. So if you do 36 months, I ended up doing 2 years at headquarters battalion at 29 Palms, and then almost 2 years at recon battalion. So that kind of put me back to a little bit, but if you just do like one bill, you just stay at the same place for 3 years or whatnot, 36 months, or say you go to infantry battalion, pick up sergeant major, go to infantry battalion, you're lucky enough to do 2 deployments, there's a possibility that at 36 months, you could get looked at to get moved up. I don't know what the time and grade is now, if they changed it or not. I think it used to be like 36 months or something like that for that time and grade. I had over 36 months when I went to a colonel billet.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. When you got, when the carrot was dangled, were you considering getting out at 20, or was that not an option for you?
No, I knew I was going to do more than 20. I just didn't know how much longer I was going to do more than 20. I just, they always say when it's time to go, it's time to go. And I think I just, I think there's like, in my opinion, when people ask me like, hey, when should I get out? Should I get, and I tell them it's all up to you. When you get to our ranks, as you'll see, when you become a mess sergeant, first sergeant, sergeant major, our kids are usually older. They're in high school. Your wives may have jobs. So there's other considerations that you can take. You have to, again, like you heard my bio last time, I was very fortunate to stay in California for so many years. I don't know how that happened, but I didn't buy a house until I got to the depot. So, I was always ready to move. I was just fortunate enough to get orders in California. So you have to kind of weigh those decisions. That's why most sergeant majors, they get orders, they go East Coast, but their wives have a job, their kids are in school. So some majors will be geo bachelors, and to just make that sacrifice. But that's up to you and your family to decide if you want to do that.
That is actually, I do notice that. That's crazy. Interesting you say that, because some of the first sergeants here were geo bacheloring here in Washington. I got to ask, when you were coming into the sergeant major billet, were you prepared as a first sergeant to transition into that 89, or excuse me, sergeant major E9? And who prepared you the most? And are you still talking to them now?
So I think I was. I was a first sergeant for 5 years, and I was at the company level as a first sergeant. And then fortunately, Sergeant Major Zigafus at the time, when I was at 2-1, he came over and kind of, talked to me and said he wanted me to deploy with him to Afghanistan for a year with RCT-1. So I got moved over to headquarters battalion, and I think it was at that position. And I tell everyone, like, if you can get to a headquarters battalion, or you can get to like a headquarters company or something in a regiment or something like that, like, do it, because being able to sit in those meetings with the regimental sergeant major and the battalion sergeant majors, the 3-1 battalion sergeant major, the 1-1 battalion sergeant major, and I'm just a little first sergeant, and just seeing them talk and hearing, and then being, when the Sergeant Major Zigafus was gone, and Coley as well, he took Sergeant Major Zigafus's place. Sergeant Major Coley as well, when they were on leave or whatever, I was able to sit in that office and learn and be able to talk to the other sergeant majors in the battalion, passing on things that either he wanted or the colonel wanted. And I was fortunate enough to have, I wasn't telling sergeant majors what to do, but I was just asking them what to do, obviously.
Yeah.
I was fortunate that the sergeant majors that were there at the time in the battalions were like, understood, the position who I was sitting in for, and, like, never had any issues or anything. So, I mean, it's very, and I learned a lot in that building. So yeah, not every first sergeant gets to do that. Some first sergeants may go straight from a company to be a sergeant major and not have that experience. I was fortunate, but anytime I tell first sergeant, like, where should I go next? I go find a headquarters company, go find a headquarters regiment, something like that, where you can, fill in for the regimental sergeant major and learn from him. So yeah, Zigafus taught me a lot, and so did Sergeant Major.
That's divine, because you just said timing and the ability to learn from being in a position where just a lonely first sergeant. I got to ask you, before we get into the meat and potatoes, what is one thing you can tell the listeners that are going into, the zones already came out, yeah? You tracking the zones? for all. There's 193 allocations for 89.99. What do you feel about
That's a
that?
lot. That sounds like a lot.
That does. And unfortunately, or fortunately, either one, however you look at it, I put F on my last fitness report, so we'll see how that goes. Right? Be careful what you ask for. What's one thing you can provide in terms of guidance moving forward? Like, hey, let's just say, 193 Marines get selected. It's going to happen. What's one tool for the toolbox in terms of getting into that 89.99 community?
As a first sergeant or a sergeant major?
First sergeant.
I think one of the tools is just really sit down with that company commander, that company gunnery sergeant, your staff. That some companies have XOs, first lieutenants. They'll have XOs, and just kind of sitting with them. I'm always anytime I went to a new unit, especially when I went to, so I picked up first sergeant, I went to the infantry. So luckily I was an Amtracker, so I knew a little bit, but I had never been with the grunts. They just been in my Amtrak. Just kind of, sitting, asking questions, if you see something, you may see weird, it's your company. You're going to do what you want, but, I'm always the type of person that just kind of sits back. Hey, why are we doing this way? If I see something, okay, hey, what, why are you doing things this way, or why are we doing it that way? And just kind of, getting on the page. Company gunnery sergeant to me is just like the master gunnery sergeant as a sergeant major. Like, you guys got to be on the same page. And I've been lucky with my company gunnies, and I've been lucky with my company commanders to have those good relationships. And I just built them through asking questions. Don't go in thinking you know everything, or you're going to go in there with an iron fist and unscrew every company that you get to go to, because they're just going to look at you all weird. Like,
to your point, a lot of them say you got to bring the hammer right away. Is that accurate statement, or should they ease back?
I don't think so. I mean, again, again, you're a first sergeant. It's your company. You could do what you want, and you may want to change things, and that's all right. But before I change something, I always ask, like, hey, why are we doing it this way? Hey, I don't really like it that way. I think, I want to do it this way. You know what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily a hammer, it's just, but yeah, setting the rules, setting the standards, setting the guidelines, setting those things. Yeah. I mean, I set the standard, hey, when you come see me, you'll report in my office. I mean, just little things like that, standard operating procedures that you may have, but it's not necessarily putting an iron fist down. It's just, this is just the way things are going to be. You know what I mean? If you want to talk to me, I don't have a problem. Just make sure you let your platoon sergeant know, so you're not just coming in my office and the platoon sergeant's like, why you want to talk to me? Remember we talked about that last time, right?
Yeah.
It's not, but yeah, I mean, setting, you can, like, let's just say field day, you want to see how your company conducts field day, watch it the first time. Then Friday morning, you don't like it, change it. Hey, I saw how we did field day last night. I don't like the way it looks. Hey, I think we're going to run it this way next week. Right. So, this is how I want it done, or and then while you're walking around, hey, Gunny, why are we doing it this way? Like, why are you doing it that way? Like, why can't we do this? But whatever that question may be. And then the next day you want to change it. So I don't think it's a hammer, iron fist. I think it's more just Marines don't like change.
That's fair. I could see that.
You come in with change, and they're like, why is he changing everything? It's been like this for years. I mean, can you imagine, like, the depot and you change something down there? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Sergeant Major Chabot before you, right? I think it was.
Yeah.
I remember Sergeant Major Chabot came out, and we all was there, and all of us, drone structures was running. Sense of urgency, got to get from point A to point B. I got to get there before the platoon's coming. And then Sergeant Major Chabot checked on deck and like, why are you running? Because I got to get to the house before they get here? No. Power walk. I'm like, well, and you already know, just like you said, Marines don't like change. They went high to the right, and then they just power walked legitimately everywhere, and they had a problem with it. But anyways, long story short, change does stir the pot a little bit. I got to ask, though, why does everybody, I mean, to include myself, I want to put myself in that group, too, because, in my experience, from 2017 and on, I've had at least, 189.99, didn't matter the, E9 or E8, E8 or E9, excuse me. I've had one single point of friction, and it's always been in that community for some reason. And I'm not saying that I'm probably the bad apple. It's probably me. I would say so. It's partially my fault, but there's always a stigma going into a new unit, what the E9 and E8 and E9 first sergeant major route. Why is there a stigma with the majority of the Corps, like in terms of that core group of first sergeants and sergeant majors?
I mean, I just think it depends on who your last first sergeant was, but I mean, have a good first sergeant, he's going to hold you accountable. He's going to hold you to standards, and not everybody may like those standards that he's holding you to. So people think, think things, and you may say, well, he may tell you cut your hair, and you may say, well, my hair is fine. And he may say, well, it looks like it's 4 inches to me. Cut your freaking hair. You know what I'm saying? Like it could be
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
right? So you never know. I think it's just that we come in, and depending on the individual, maybe he's some crazy drill instructor or something. I don't know. You know what I mean? We come in and we hold people accountable and hold people to standard. And I think, and sometimes people, again, they don't like change. So, it's always who's the first sergeant going to be? How's it? I mean, it's like that everywhere. You think about it. You go on a deployment for 18 months workup or 2 years for a deployment with workups and everything. You're used to how your first sergeant did it, how your company commander did it. It's the same thing with a company commander. Or you get a new CO, you get a new first sergeant, you get a new company gunny. There's going to be change. Sometimes that change some may be a little looser, some may be a little stricter. When I went to Echo Company, I tightened things up a little bit. I didn't like the unblousing in the field. I made them blouse boots in the field. I didn't like the cuffing of the sleeves. Those kinds of things that they were doing, and I was like, nah, we're not doing that stuff out here. Like, we ain't.
Let me ask you, what are the again, I don't know, and this is something for the 193 that get selected for first sergeant, right? This is for them. What are their roles and responsibilities checking into a unit? What is their primary duty? Is it supposed to be to stir the pot? Is it supposed to be observe and then lay the hammer down in terms of accountability and firm and fair guidance? What is it? Is there a piece of paper that turns you over like, hey, first step 1, step 2, step 3?
There is a, well, I don't know if they still have it. There was like an 8999 book out there that, they made a while back, and they had like the roles and responsibilities of, 8999 community. But if I had to sum it up, I think for first sergeant is really just to, make sure that your Marines understand the company commander's guidance and intent. Make sure that they understand the why, the why of why we're doing things. And then, of course, your also role is just like the sergeant major's role. You're there to, enforce the rules and regulations and take care and the morale. You're there for the discipline, morale, welfare of the Marines. However that may be. That's a big, broad spectrum, right? Discipline can be anything. It could be an NJP. It could be like I did. Hey, no, we're gonna blouse our boots. We're not gonna cuff our sleeves in the field, right? There's lots of forms of discipline, but really the discipline, morale, safety of the unit and the Marines, and then ensuring that your Marines understand the guidance and the intent of the company commander. That's how I see your role, right? And then you're involved in everything. You're involved for training, but that also falls under their welfare, making sure Marines are getting taken care of, make sure they're getting their fit reps done, make sure they're getting the PFTs, CFTs, sergeant's course, corporal's course, all those things done, along with training and mentoring them, and mentoring the staff NCOs. I always refer to a grunt company because I was with the grunts as a first sergeant. So I had 4 platoon sergeants, 4 staff sergeants. I had 1 company commander sergeant. I had 3 lieutenants, and you're responsible for the officers too. I was responsible for mentoring and guiding those young, with me and the captain, guiding those young lieutenants that, those butter bars or second lieutenants that really they ain't never been in a unit before. You know what I mean? Or maybe you have a staff sergeant and a second lieutenant bumping heads because they're not getting along. Like, how do you fix that friction? How do you get them on the same page so they can understand, like, hey, this is why the lieutenant's saying doing these things. Hey, this is why the staff sergeant doing things. Y'all got to get on the same page. It's a lot. It's a wide spectrum of things, in my opinion, that covers everything. What they do and what they fail to do, because you will also be responsible for that as well.
Yeah, I'm tracking once. Cut that. I'll edit that and record it, but I'll edit that part.
Like bright red stuff. So
I don't think I can mess with your tan, Abe. I don't think I can mess with your tan. I'm gonna ask. Let me ask you something. I'm hesitant, not hesitant, but I'm actually, you should always get butterflies in your stomach in terms of what's up next in the Marine Corps, right? And I've been fortunate enough in timing, just like, you've been fortunate enough with your duty stations and your billets. I've been fortunate enough to be in a certain place at a certain time for a certain reason, and it's kind of aligned my Marine Corps career with my family and all that good stuff. And I got to ask though, Marines you talked about laying down the hammer. You talk about accountability. You talk about being on the same page as the commander, right? And all those nerves come in, and I got to ask you, I've heard in my recent experience that when you come in, yeah, there's observation time, but in terms of discipline, I'm talking about paperwork, NJPs, whatever the case may be, restriction, EPD Marines. How do you play a role in that, and should you come in and max, relax, or should you allow and recommend grace in terms of every circumstance that comes across your table in terms of adjudication of punitive things?
Well, first off, I didn't say put the hammer down exactly. I said, observe. And
Observe. You did.
There will be some companies you may go into a company where, there may have been an investigation, they cleaned house, so you may have to do something like that, right? But to answer your question, every circumstance is different, right? Every circumstance is different. And if you have a good company commander, or you have a good commanding officer, or you have a good commanding general, they will listen to the chain of command. In any NJP I've ever been in, we've always had the chain of command in there. And the chain of command usually advises things or tells us things they may not know. Like, hey, look, I know he messed up, but, he has a lot of bills. He has a lot of debt. Sometimes the reduction may just be enough. You know what I mean? Like, he's already losing pay. He may not need to take the half month's pay for 2 months. You can suspend that, right? So maybe he gets 45 and 45. He gets reduced, and he gets the half month's pay for 2 months suspended, right? Because of his bills, and that's already going to hurt his family. So, I mean, every case is different. So I don't really have one answer for that. But what I learned through NJPs and 6105s and everything is you can't take it personal. You have to look at the institution and how it would be viewed, in my opinion. Again, this is my opinion. Some other sergeant major may have a different thing. And what I mean by viewed is like, if I'm going to NJP a lance corporal for, I don't know, having an alcohol incident, right? Then I should do that for a sergeant or a staff sergeant. You know what I mean? If it rates, not every incident rates an NJP. Some incidents,
right.
Counseling, some incidents may. But here's a story. Here's what I learned. I had a Marine. I was with 2-1. I was a headquarters battalion. Sergeant Major Abel, and there was this kid. He was just always in trouble. And he, and if I remember right, I made kind of, my memory's kind of bad, but I didn't want him to reduce rank. I wanted him to just get the 45 and take his pay. But I was like, nah, he can stay a corporal. Like, he messed up. He needs to be on restriction longer than 14 days. Like, I didn't think 14 days was a good enough punishment. And, he pulls me in. He says, hey, look, I get that. But, he's like, we're not here to make, we're not here. He basically told me, we're not here to make deals. If you bring him up here, you need to be prepared for him to lose his rank. Not that he was going to do it, but that's what could happen, right?
Wow.
Okay. Does that make sense?
It does.
So if you're not willing to take that chance, because he's like, we advise the commander, but the commander overall makes the decision, which is true, right? And so he says, otherwise, you have 14 days restriction. That's what you get. That's what the UCMJ says. And if you feel if what he did rates NJP, then that's what you got to go with, right? And I kind of took back like, okay, yeah, all right, you're right. So we ended up company level NJP.
Yeah.
No, and I just took it up. But it was good advice, right? It's good advice.
Yeah, that is.
You're not willing to take that game. Just because I go, hey, don't take his rank. Like, that doesn't mean the commanding officer may be like, no, he needs to be a lance corporal. He may not see it the same way I see it.
Yeah.
Right? And I actually gave that advice to somebody when I was a sergeant major, and a young sergeant major was trying to do the same thing when I was at the 06 level, or when I was at the first sergeant was doing it when I was at the battalion level. And I told them the same thing, and they were like, oh, I saw him. And I gave the same advice, like, hey, don't bring him up here unless you're willing to lose his rank, because I don't, he may or may not,
Yeah. That's wild. Actually, I never thought about that too. I do a lot of legal, right? There's a lot of legal here for some reason, and that's a good point. Don't put him up from battalion NJP if you're not ready for that Marine to lose their rank. How often did you, the stigma, we got to go back to stigma here. So you obviously, every situation dictated a different course of action. I get it. I think everybody's mature enough to understand that. And if you take them all the way up the flagpole, you might as well be ready for that flagpole to come down with them. I got to ask though, in my experience, and again, different experience than every other Marine, even yours. But, were you one of those? And again, I've only experienced you on the depot, and very, very minimal because you're a very busy man out there. You're getting pulled left and right with the general, so I get it. In my short career, there's individuals that say my opinion matters, and my opinion weighs a lot. So if you can't convince me, you're not going to convince the CEO. Is that an accurate statement?
In what context? Like, what do you mean?
I'll use an example. Let's see. I don't know, man. It's crazy. I got to use legal because it's most thing that I do around here. Setting a standard in terms of giving to dudes a 6105, what you want to see in the 6105 and what the reference actually says. If you want to add or take away, but you just got to have the minimum requirements. If you can't convince me, you're not going to convince the CEO, in my opinion, matters. Is that a good way to entertain your staff in terms of mission accomplishment?
I don't know, because I've never seen commanding officers or commanding generals get involved in what a commander's decision is going to be, because sometimes that could fall under undue command influence. The commander needs to make a decision on whether or not he wants to put it up to battalion level NJP or to company level NJP. And it's not a matter of whether or not again, these are all my opinions. I don't think it's a matter of whether or not you can convince the commanding officer, the commanding officer to take everything into account. If he's a good commanding officer, he'll take everything into account and he'll make a good, sound decision. And that may be maxing them out and not, hey, it is what it is. Or I've seen commanding officers where they've said, no, we're not going to NJP. And they've walked right out with nothing. Even when I said he needs to be NJP, but all those decisions are usually made, usually on the spot in the office. You got chain of command there, you got them there. He takes everything into consideration, and then he makes a decision. But I think back to that story with Sergeant Major Ziegfeld, essentially that just goes down to, if you're going to send someone up to see the battalion commander for battalion level NJP, you need to have a good reason to send them up there. Otherwise, that's what you have company level NJP for. Does that? I don't know if that answers the question. If that makes sense.
It does. How much did you?
It's not about convincing. It's about
there you go.
It's not about convincing. It's about whether or not, what type of, because there's different levels of, there's a reason we have company level NJP and there's a reason we have battalion level NJP. And usually that goes under maybe the severity of the incident, right? What dictates a battalion level NJP and what dictates company level NJP. Sometimes it's company level, sometimes it's battalion level. If you're at a headquarters battalion, they're probably all battalion level because you don't really have, sometimes may not have a company commander.
Yeah.
That, right?
That's true. There's a lot to think about, Abe. It sounds like you do a lot. Safety, the welfare, the training, everything you mentioned earlier. There seems like a lot going on there. And I got to ask, coming into the billet, 193 Marines going to get selected for first sergeant. And then it's like 40 some for sergeant. I think it's like 12 or 15 for Sergeant Major. When you have a recommendation, when you have an opinion as a first Sergeant Major with a new commander, should you have a little bit of a reverence or like reservation of giving them all the information, or should you give it all to him? A new company commander or a new battalion commander, fresh off wherever they're coming from, and they're kind of, new at the spot, right? They're not new with that kind of authority. Should you give it all to him and say, I've been around the block, you should take my opinion and consider it very heavily, or should you allow him to flow right into the position as the battalion commander or whatever commander that, whatever ability he has?
I mean, your opinion is, just because you wear the rank of first sergeant, sergeant major, your opinion is going to hold weight. And your company commander is going to take what you say strong. Your recommendation is probably going to be the strongest. Doesn't mean he's always going to listen to it, because, again, I've recommended. Sometimes it didn't. Sometimes, and I don't want to say it didn't go my way, but sometimes he changes. He made a decision, But once he slaps the table and he makes a decision, whether you like it or not, he's the commanding officer. You go with it, right? That's what it is. You could talk about it later, maybe behind closed doors, and be like, hey, why did you go that route? And he may say, maybe it could be anything. It's like, hey, platoon commander and them don't have any counseling. This is his first offense, really. Like, maybe they should have done a better job. You know what I mean? So it could be anything, right? But so your opinion and recommendation is going to hold weight if you have a good commanding officer. They're going to listen to you. But again, they may not always go the way you want, but it's going to hold weight. They're going to think about it. Because I've been in rooms where I've been totally opposite of what the command wants, like they're just the chain of command. And I've been totally opposite. They may say, max him out, max him out. And there's been times I say, well, sir, I know that he messed up, but, he's a good Marine. He's done this, and this. This is his first offense. Maybe we should just give him a 6105 vice battalion level NJP. I mean, there's been times where they'd say, "Oh, I recommend he gets off," and I go, "Well, sir, this is probably something where he probably needs to be in JP, even though it was his first offense." Again, every case is different, and your commanding officer, will take that into consideration. But if it is a 6105, like you said, getting back to that too, I always read 6105s for my first sergeants, make sure it made sense, make sure it said the things that needed to be said, because 6105s can be vague or they can be detailed, depending on what it was. Some are more detailed than others.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Hey, everybody know I appreciate your time. I don't want to take too much more. I got a couple more questions and I'll make it snappy. Was First Sergeant Major the route you wanted to take always? Or
yes, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. How was I always gotta say I do appreciate you coming out for my DI ribbon ceremony. I was exiting the depot. I do appreciate you and the general coming out. I didn't think it was I remember Randall Parks was sweating balls. I think I told you last time on the last podcast. Sweating bullets, like, why did you invite the Sergeant Major and Sergeant General? Come on, man. Cleaning house, getting the uniforms ready. I'm like, calm down. He's just a Marine. What's the big deal, right? He's just another guy coming out to enjoy the festivities, right? Because he don't get out too much. But I do appreciate that. For the 193 that are listening, that are going to get selected, good luck. What can you tell them about the board, the process in terms of that community? And what does it look like? Obviously, you probably got a non-disclosure agreement. You can't talk about the, secret squirrel stuff. But to give us a nice broad overview of what happens at the board, if you sat there or somebody.
I've never sat on a first sergeant board. No, we take, I know at packages that I've reviewed, I looked at everything. The RO matters. The RO tree matters. The RO's profile, how many fit reps you have below average. And that's the thing that, Marines need to really understand is where that fit rep falls. Are you below average? Are you average? Because, a lot of times if they're not talking to their lieutenants or whatever, they think they're doing well, and then they get a fit rep. It's like, well, it's like average fit rep. You know what I mean? Or you get ranked really low on the trees. Those matter, but also, maybe you get one low fit rep, but all your other fit reps are high. Well, maybe it was just an incident between, we take all that, but PFTs, CFTs, marksmanship range. I mean, everything goes in. It goes in. We look at that master brief sheet, but again, it's 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes, has a billet or doesn't have a billet. I was doing HVBs. So, we were doing MUs. So sometimes that, did you ever do a MU before? If maybe you had an MOS where you never did a MU, what kind of experience did you have? So what your background is, all comes into play, when they're looking at those billets, like I'm not going to be the MCRIC Sergeant Major because, well, maybe I could be, but I wasn't a recruiter. You know what I mean? So, I had WRR. Maybe I could have been the MCRIC Sergeant Major one day, but odds are I'm probably not going to get that billet. You know what I mean? This is some prior recruiting Sergeant Major is probably going to get MCRIC Sergeant Major or something. I don't know. It just depends.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So they're going to look at everything, especially as a gunnery sergeant. What billets you've held, B billet. But again, it's 2 minutes. It's I Sergeant Major Leal briefing. Gunnery Sergeant Leal, first class PFT. Expert on the range, expert on the pistol, does have a B billet, PME complete. I mean, RS profile, 90% of his fit reps is above average and top of the tree. I mean, it's a quick brief. Here's some comments. The comments matter too. Here's some comments from his last 2 fit reps. RS says this, RO says this, promote, something like where it says promote with peers or promote at first opportunity. Which one do you think holds more weight?
First opportunity.
Yeah, right. So all that stuff gets looked at, and then, whether or not you had any NJPs or not had NJPs and so forth, so forth. You got to think at that level, gunnery sergeant, it may be, not as competitive for everyone. But when you get to the top of the tiers, most of the gunnery sergeants are probably going to have, most of the gunnery sergeants that pick up first sergeant are probably going to be first class PFTers. They're probably going to be black belts or brown belts in McMap. They're probably going to be experts on the range. They're probably going to have B billets. There'll be a few that don't have B billets and stuff, but there's a pattern usually that you could follow where, most Marines that get selected to first sergeant have in their background. But, when I got when I got selected to first sergeant, there was a few Marines that didn't have B billets. And there'll be Marines there's sergeant majors that don't have B billets. So, you cannot have a B billet, but you got to have competitive fit reps, right? So
that does make sense. In 30 amazing years of active duty, you've seen it all, done it all. But yet we still, as young service members or even senior service members, transitioning from uniform to just civilian attire full time, and we struggle with mental health now more than ever. Even while we were in Operation Enduring Freedom, Iraqi Freedom, the deaths total there compared to now outside of war is just non-compared. Marines are committing suicide, struggling with mental health, PTSD, anxiety, trauma. In the 30 years you've seen it all, done it all, what's the best advice that we can give service members now that are struggling with mental health? Or, if you had an opportunity for that Marine or that DOD service member to just talk to him before he commits that act, what's that toolbox moving forward, the way forward for them?
As leaders, I think you need to not hold a stigma. Sometimes there's a stigma always going to staff sergeants, going to mental health, right? There may be a stigma attached with that. I have PTSD. I went to mental health. Sometimes I use that as a platform to tell Marines, hey, look, I got mental health issues. Sometimes I go to talk to people. Like, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to do. It's a good thing. You may need it from time to time. But what you don't want to do is take advantage of that, where you go to medical at 8 a.m. and then you're not seen the rest of the day. That's not how we do business. Like, I went to medical, I went to my appointment for an hour, and then guess where I went back to the depot, or I went back to work, right? So just making sure you're getting those appointments in and talking to people. If you're struggling with mental health, go see somebody. Don't be too proud to not go talk to people. If you have people that you can confide into, that you trust, maybe your brothers and sisters out there, I would tell you to give them a phone call and talk to them. There isn't a Marine out there that I think would turn the phone away if you just say, hey, brother, sister, hey, do you have a minute? Do you not have a minute? I got to get some stuff off my chest. Again, I've had those phone calls, but you always have the network. Like, I still talk to Chabot, I still talk to Agan, I still talk to my fellow sergeant majors through group chat. So you still have that bond. You may not see him every day, but I talk to him a lot through text or whatever. Or when the Raiders lose, they usually text me more. There's other, I think as leaders we need to let people know that it's not bad if you need to go see somebody or get help. We need to encourage it. But again, there's don't take advantage as a young Marine, is like, don't take advantage of it. Go get your help, do what you gotta do, get back to work. You know what I'm saying? Because then it's always like, well, where's Leal at? Like, he had a medical appointment. That was at like 9 o'clock. It's like 1400. Like, I haven't seen a thing. Like, where is that kid? Right?
Yeah. That's true, I guess.
Yeah, the stigma comes, right? And then now it's like, well,
that's true.
You know what I mean? It's like, just go do what you got to do. But that's really the
I'm
best
with it.
advice I can get. It took me years. Like, I went to Iraq in 2003. I didn't get seen until 2016, mental health.
Is that because of the stigma?
Not necessarily stigma. I just kind of sucked it up. I just felt like I didn't need it, And, then as I started getting out and getting closer to like, I need, maybe having relationship problems, things like that. Or my kids tell me, you probably need to go talk to somebody. Like, you're always angry, things like that. Or you're waking up screaming in the middle of the night, right?
You punch your wife on accident.
Maybe I should go for a while, for a few years or whatever, off and on, whenever I could fit it in. But there's nothing wrong with it. If you need to go see somebody, that's the first step, is just taking that step to, put your left foot forward and calling medical and going and seeing doc, telling them you need to talk to somebody.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. It's crazy that this unit has a nice little psycho with attached to it, so it's pretty cool. Setting appointment up, pretty dope. Ladies and gentlemen, we got retired Sergeant Major Abel Leal hailing in from Temecula, California. We appreciate your time, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know, now you know. The 193, listen up. There's some good gouging here for your future commands, future code commanders, future battalion commanders, for those sergeant majors. Congratulations to promotion selection. And Abe, let them know where they can. Let the listeners know where they can reach you at if they have more questions about the 8999 Community First Sergeant Major route, social media handles, things like that.
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram, but you can also just go to the Fontana High School Marine Corps JROTC webpage. I think my email and cell number's on there as well. So you can contact me that way if you don't have my, my Facebook or whatnot. But I think it's just Abel Leal or Abel Leal, one of those. But yeah, you'll find me.
Are you going to change that profile pic with the mask or what?
Which one?
The one with the face, the one with the little mask, the little white mask that everybody had on the depot. Remember?
Is that on my phone?
I don't even know. I thought it was on your Instagram page. I swear it was on your Instagram page.
No, I thought on my Instagram. No, I changed that. I must change that a while ago. But it was on my phone. Somebody was like, I called somebody and they're like, dude, why you got a mask on? I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, yeah, you still got the. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know. Like, I guess it was my picture from my phone too. So.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is on your phone. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Hey, but I appreciate your time, ladies. Hey, if you change it, let me know. I'll probably see it anyways. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Pit Talk, pulling pits and opinions with your host, Gunny G, where service members help service members, period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere. Get your podcast on most social media platforms with your repeat offenders, special guests, retired Sergeant Major Abel Leal. Follow him, like him, subscribe to his little Instagram, his Facebook, and RLTC in Fontana. You're doing big and greater things outside the uniform, Sergeant Major. I appreciate it. We all and thank you for your service. Ladies and gentlemen, we out. Sergeant Major, thank you for your time.
So is this going to be on YouTube or what's going to be? Are you going to edit it or how are you going to do it?
I'll probably edit like maybe 2 seconds of it because that little one part, but most of it's pretty good to go. It'll format. It'll probably be out by next week, no later. It'll be on YouTube and Rumble, and then on all audio podcasts, if that makes sense.
Well, hopefully I gave some good gouge and it made sense.
No, it did. I appreciate it. I was gonna ask you more like provoking questions, but I was like, nah, it's not worth it. You know what I mean? No harm, no foul.
Like what?
I was gonna. Stand by, contact. Cease fire. Stand by, contact.
Pit Talk is a podcast featuring active service members who discuss their thoughts and opinions on various issues surrounding military life, current events, and history. The statements heard here are the opinions of its members and guests. These do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense and are not endorsed or sponsored in any way. Listener, viewer discretion advised.